Hey out there, all you audiophiles. This is Sam Tallent, and you're listening to the Barn. Oh, ow, ow!
Hi, and welcome to the Barn, live from the Barn studio. You got the Mox here, and I'm joined online right now with stand-up comedian, writer, podcaster, a little bit of everything, Mr. Sam Tallent. Sam, how are you, man?
Bro, good. Glad to be here. Thank you for allowing me to come on, even though I'm covered in paint.
Yeah, tell us about that. You're doing a little, doing some Christmas cards.
Yeah, making Christmas cards. I printed out this like lino stamp. That's like the reverse of the image, and then you apply all this ink right here, and then you roll it on with this device right here, and then you use this spoon right here to engrave it on there, classic spoon, and then you get something like this in the end. This is good stuff for all the audio only listeners. I'll try and give a blind interpretation. What you see here is the image of a Christmas tree, and above it says Happy Christmas, and it's flanked by my wife and I's names.
That's amazing. Is the Christmas card dying? Are you trying to like revitalize a dying sort of thing
Man,
from the past? You don't hear a lot about Christmas cards anymore.
well, a lot of people don't care at all about anything, and they don't care about the things that used to keep us connected. And I'm just as guilty of being addicted to my phone. But this is a project. It's a craft that I can do. That's not just me, searching my name on Reddit. So I think anything that can keep me away from my phone and my hands occupied and filthy, I'm all for it.
I kind of insinuated I was going to take a funny little jab at you. I we
It's
talked
always good, but to warn someone when you're going to say something funny about them, I appreciate that.
well, and I don't know how funny it is, but we talked to a lot of comedians, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I'm not sure I've met one before that has needed like a publicist or a manager more than you. And I say that because our
Yeah.
email correspondence, I think, started probably almost a year ago, and we've been trying to do this for a while. And your communication skills, as far as that goes, we might need to get somebody else involved here.
Look, man, the blood's on my hands. Yeah, I'm fairly incompetent. I have a lot of plates spinning, and I have a manager, but God, do I hate allowing them to do anything? Because I had to like do everything my entire career, and now I have agents and managers, and had to trust my intuition, and then they tell me what I should do, and I'm like, well, what if we kept doing it the hard way? What if we just kept bashing our head against this wall? Because over the last 15 years, I finally made a dent in that wall. So yeah, I apologize for the delay, but good God, look at us now. You're in the new studio. I'm thriving. It's better now. We're more evolved men now. We can have a better conversation.
I actually agree with you. We're in a better spot now. I do agree. So maybe that was the earth sort of balancing itself, right?
Yeah, any way that I can avoid responsibility for being bad at responding to emails, I'm all for it.
Well, even like up to like 5 minutes ago, I wasn't even sure if this was going to happen or not. But I do think, and I kind of, I joke about that, but I think a lot of your career is sort of the punk rock ethos, right? It's kind of the do it yourself.
It's been completely do it myself, and now I have agents who are cool, and it's their job to be Hollywood ghouls and make sure that I get the most money possible. And I like that because now I have people who take 10% of my business to literally be the bad guy. And that's all I care about because I really want to avoid people being angry at me due to some strange, I don't know, symptom of whatever happened in my upbringing. But yeah, I I've done it all myself, and I like to. I mean, I'm literally in here making Christmas cards that I carved myself with paint that I've tried to make myself. If I was doing handmade paper, that'd be truly punk rock. But that's ridiculous. So I haven't done that yet.
And I will, I'll email you or your manager our address here. We'd love to put one up here in the studio if you could spare one.
I can. It's going to be one that I fucked up. Can I swear? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, it's going to be one that I fucked up on, but it's the thought that counts with these things.
Yeah, and I prefer the ones that are messed up. There's a little bit of beauty in that, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I had it. So originally it said "Happy Christmas" or the Jewish equivalent, but I put the J backward on that one, so I cut it off. I wasn't scared of anti-Semitism. I was more scared of looking like a fool with knowing which way my letters go.
We have to get that one. That has to be the one.
I'll put that in the mail for you, man. It's bad. It looks like my niece made it.
Even better. Hey, 2025 looks to be an exciting year for you. I know there was some announcements as far as your publishing and a new
Yeah.
book and basically kind of a world tour. Like you're playing out to some different countries pretty much across the globe, right?
Yeah, man, that's like my favorite part of stand up now is like how new stand up is in most parts of the world. Like you know, English speaking parts of the world, it's been pretty well established and they have their own forms and their own kinds and they're, good or bad depending. But yeah, like I did stand up in Bratislava, Budapest, Estonia, all these places where it's like still a brand new art form to them. And I'm going back to Australia this year. I'm going back to the UK. I'm going back to New Brunswick, New Jersey, all the beautiful spots. I was just in Springfield, Missouri, you know, the Paris of the plains, as I call it. But yeah, I got my new book it's due July 1st, and Random House is putting out Running the Light, my first novel in traditional form. So it'll be available in paperback like everywhere you want to get a book. So yeah, that feels very good.
And Running the Light is one of the top selling comedy books about comedy, I would say. And I want to get into that, but let's talk about Petulant Brood a little bit. What can we expect? What can the reader, or as I am, a listener,
Yeah.
what can we expect? Because I imagine there'll be an audiobook too, at least I hope.
Oh, of course, man. Any way that we can get people engaging with the book. Also, audiobooks count. If Braille counts, audiobooks count. That's my hardline stance. Anything that
Thank,
gets you reading, I'm all for it.
thank you for
But
that.
yeah,
Thank you for that.
yeah. Well, people beat themselves up. They're like, I listened to your book, and they say it with like an apologetic tone, and it's like, well, thank you for listening to my book instead of like, you know, I could say a bunch of podcasts right now that would hurt people's feelings, but you know what I mean. Uh, Anything that's a bit more nutritious that you're getting into your brain, I think, is valuable. But the new book is about a hitman who screws up a job and has to go to Paris to avenge it. And he also he's a homosexual Marine. He's a veteran. It's been really fun, man. Like I can't write like science fiction or fantasy, but like writing a gay guy has been super fun because you get to like you got to try and like make yourself. I got to put myself in the shoes of someone who's deeply in love with a man, and I never get to admit when I do that. I always have to do that deep in secret. So it's nice to be able to put it on the paper and get all that out.
That's sort of that old Norm Macdonald bit, right? I'm a deeply
Yeah,
closeted
deeply
man.
closeted gay man. Yeah, and
And
like
they're like,
Larry King was deeply confused by it, and he's like, "So you're a gay man?" He's like, "No, I'm deeply closeted." Yeah, so I think this is my version of that, but in novel form.
but I bring up Norm every time we talk to comedians. His book, did you read
Yeah.
his book?
I read it start to finish one day, and then the next day I read it start to finish again.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the best novel about stand up. Mine's the second best, but Norm's is better. Norm's is like a fucking sweeping work of just classic literature. It was so impressive. It blew me away. You should listen
Really?
to that one because he reads it. It's better.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
I've read that one, old
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
Just a brilliant mind, right? Just incredibly. And it's so funny to me how people sort of just write him off as like maybe, I don't know, maybe dim-witted or something. Just incredibly impressive brain on that guy.
Yeah. Norm always said, I wasn't well educated because he didn't go to college. And I always thought that was very endearing because that's him kind of like winking and saying, yeah, I'm not well educated, even though he was an autodidact who like, it's so funny. Like his book kind of shows like the merit of reading like Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, Faulkner, Melville. Like he read all the classic works and then kind of synthesized them and amalgamated them into what he put out in that book. And people are always like, "Did Norm read your book?" And it's like, if I was dying privately of blood cancer, I probably wouldn't take a chance on a self-published novel. So no, he didn't read my book because he was rereading, the brothers Karamazov before the light finally left his eyes. Yeah, he was so good at doing that thing where he like made people think he was stupid.
Is being well read important, you think?
I think it is for me as a writer. Like you need to be able to know like it's just like if you listen to a whole bunch of cool music, then you can kind of like put that in the blender and put out something new and different. That's just all books are made of books. So it's like the more books you've read, the more cool things that you've seen, and you can try and implement them in your own writing.
Are you a fan of Chuck Klosterman?
Yeah, I liked Downtown Owl. I liked the one with like the fruity pebbles on the cover, Fargo Rock City. I think I read three of his books when I was young, and I thought they were all very cool.
Yeah, I just bring him up just because of sort of what we're talking about here, just reminding me of that and sort of pop culture writing in some ways. Just one of my favorites.
Yeah, yeah, he wrote a whole bunch of great essays. If you like that stuff, man, you should read David Sedaris. David Sedaris is like the only guy to ever write funny. It's so hard to like make something you read funny, and Sedaris is the fucking king of that. He was so hilarious on the page, and he also wrote great essays about like the minutia of modern life.
How often do you write? Is it every day? Is it weekly? Is it an intentional thing?
Man, that's so funny. Like, it's not so funny, but it's a noteworthy anecdote. I like haven't written since I got the book deal because now I have a deadline for it. So like I have half of it done. And ever since I got the first check, I was like, okay, January 1st, I'm going to start writing. But I'm not going to be back in America until like January 14th. So January 15th. Well, actually, I probably want to write the day I get home. So it's just like I keep pushing back this deadline further and further. But when I do write, I write 1,000 words a day at least, no matter how long that takes me. It could take 3 hours, it could take eight, but I don't step away until I put down 1,000.
We talked to a lot of musicians as well and a lot of songwriters, and some of them will say that they have to sort of open that portal for creativity to kind of flow through them. And then there's others that sort of workshop things where they will sit down and be intentional about, I'm going to play guitar today. I'm going to write lyrics today. I'm going to try to come up with even a basic idea of a song structure. What is writing like for you in that regard? And also, what is comedy like when you're writing your set and you're working out a set? Is it different from your writing?
Very good question. I feel like a lot of artists and stuff wait for inspiration. And I think that like that's them saying, "Hey, I'm special. I'm going to get inspiration whenever I want it." I think that if you can dedicate it and more make like a job, like more like a craft where you're trying to like get repeatable evidence of your work and sweat and application of your will daily, I think that's a lot more valuable for me. I wish I was one of those guys that could just be like, "Oh, wow, there it is, inspiration," and then sit down and write 30 pages and then kind of pat myself on the back for a week. But I'm not that good at writing, so I have to like really sweat over the keyboard. So yeah, I like to put in the time and make sure that I get the 1,000 words at least, so I can say like, okay, you've done your job. But like, I don't like write jokes. I like have to have an idea and then work it out on stage. So it's completely different processes, but it does help me a lot. If I've been writing all day and then I go do a set that night, I feel like my mind is a lot more like limber and the words come to me quicker when I'm improvising, and I have a much better like control of my lexicon, word choice, like all that stuff. So I think that they like, it's like doing leg day and then doing arm day. Like they make the core stronger to sound super stupid and pretentious, but that's the way that I'm going to compare it right now.
And you do kind of hear that cliche thing of working the muscle out, right? And the mind being that way. Is that sort of what you're talking about?
I think it's like synapses, man. I think it's just trying to figure out like new ways to make your neurons fire across different synapses and like make those parts of your brain communicate that don't usually communicate. And I feel like the bigger the web that you have of like different, X connecting to A in your brain, as opposed to just X connecting to X, Y to Y. I think if you can try and like make that web even like bigger and more robust, I think it's going to help you in all forms of your life.
We talk about 2025 being a big year for you. 2024 wasn't no joke either.
It's
Uh,
huge, man. It was crazy. I'm so grateful.
what do you think about the success that you've had these past couple years compared to when, and I don't know what it was like early on in your comedy career, but compared to some of the earlier years?
Man, I did a show in like 2017 in Festus, Missouri for $100 and 30 Crystal Burgers. So like things have come from very, very low expectation. I still have very low expectations, but very little reward for a lot of hard work. And now like the reward is finally there. I think it's directly connected to the strength of podcasts, Matt and Shane's, Rogan, Are You Garbage, Kill Tony. Kill Tony's been the kingmaker. I think it's just that like my more people know about me now. And then when they come and they see me and I do a good job on stage, then they want to tell their friends. And then the shows have been like, dude, like I was running on a heater of like 3 months. Every show sold out, and then I walked into Springfield, and that first night I walked in, and I was like, "Oh yeah, we are getting humbled this weekend, gentlemen. We are back to earth. No bonuses are getting hit here." So it's good. It's good to be humbled. It's good to be reminded. But yeah, it's just this last year, my special came out last December. That got to 1 million views, and and then just like Kill Tony specifically, and Matt and Shane. Those things, people who listen to those things, they buy tickets, they come out, they're excited, they have ownership in you. The book obviously kind of like helped. That was like the first spark that catalyzed like how things have been going in an upward arc. But yeah, this last year was just so crazy, man. I'm so happy.
You talked about Reddit earlier, and I really enjoyed your AMA on Reddit a couple months
Oh
ago.
yeah,
And you kind of talked about the Kill Tony thing on there. And we just spoke to Jim Florentine, and he told us, he said, my crowds are younger than they've maybe ever been. They don't even know some of these like crank yankers and some of these, that metal show and some of the things that Jim's, Howard Stern appearances and things like that. They know the new stuff. They know, it's a younger crowd. It's the Kill Tony crowd.
yeah.
But we also talked about comedy being in one of the best places it's maybe ever been right now.
I think that's fair. I'm also glad to hear that Jim is doing well on the road because he's so funny. Um, yeah, like my crowds are weird. They're a weird bunch. They're Stanhope people, they're Gillis people, they are people who read my book. They're the people who've been there since day one when I was doing like bookstores, basements, like that kind of thing. And then the Kill Tony mob. Um, yeah, I think stand up's in a very good place. And I think that stand up is so big now that it's like boutique. It's like you can find every exact kind of stand up that suits your needs. And there's people who, of course, have never heard of Jim Florentine, but yet they consume, hours of Ralph Barbosa, of Maddie Smith. Like, there's all these people that are young and they're relevant and they're getting people into comedy. And you hope that, like, there's all these clips that go around, the crowd work clips, and a lot of comics hate them and they think they're bad. But like, I just always hope that if a 19-year-old sees a clip, like maybe they'll want to dig deeper and then they'll find like other comedy as opposed to just like taking it in as like kind of a little chicken nugget of content. I don't know how often that happens, but I think that anything that gets eyes on the thing you devoted your life to is like good for that as a whole. And I'm certainly very, very happy with how stand up is going right now.
On the AMA with the Reddit thing, I want to talk about a couple things that you mentioned on there. And
Yeah.
one, obviously your connection, your friendship with Shane Gillis. When you guys are on things together, it's just so hilarious. And I want to quote you on this. This is what was on your AMA. He didn't pull up the ladder behind him. He held it so his friends could crawl up. How how important has that relationship been to you?
I met Shane at Montreal 2019. We were both new faces. He was repped. I was unrepped. We were both the two white fat guys that they had that year in those two different classes. And I saw him in an elevator and I was like, hey, dude, I'm Sam. I'm one of the unreps. And he introduced himself. And all I knew about him is that he played football. So I was like, did you play football? And he was like, oh, no, like I did, but I dropped out right away. Like I quit. And that was just so self-effacing. He could have just been like, yeah, I played at Army. But no, right away. He was like, I signed with Army. I went to Army for 2 weeks. I dropped out. This is like the first conversation we have before the elevator even hits the ground floor. And he's as funny as anyone else alive. Um, he he's been so good to me. All of his friends, that show that he makes is his friends. He's given platforms to the producers and the recurring guests on Matt and Shane's. He's Shane's probably responsible for at least 10 people's like mortgages or rent, like he's created an industry of stuff, him just making stuff. And like Shane's like definitively follows the punk rock ethos as much as he would hate to hear me say that. Like he's created all this momentum himself. He took opportunities when they were awarded, but he didn't jeopardize his integrity. He's getting a big bag of money from Bud Light right now. Good for fucking him. This whole sellout ethos, not that anyone says it about Shane, because I think everyone who's a Shane fan knows that he came from nothing. He's of the mud. But like, I just really hate when people are like, "Oh, do you see X was in some commercial?" Or like, "Oh yeah, do you see this guy's like shilling for this product on his podcast?" It's like, yeah, because we're trying to buy our freedom. You know, it's like you can still be a good person, you can still be a good friend, son, husband, but also we all know that like a couple commas in your bank account buys you the ultimate resource, which is time, and affords you the ability of choice and not having to chase after everything. So yeah, like I really admire Shane on stage. I admire him as a man as well. And yeah, I'm so glad that we happen to be in similar periods together. You know, that I get to be the Basquiat to his Warhol. I don't envy the crown that he has to wear. Like, there's a lot of pressure on him to be the funniest guy alive ever. Every time people go see him, and, you know, at the end of the day, he's just flesh and blood. So I really just admire how he's been able to not become a complete monster, not devolve into all the pleasure comforts that people get involved in. Like, he likes a couple beers, big deal. You know, like you'd probably have a couple beers too if you were the anointed king of comedy Christ, as he has been dubbed.
And I think that's what maybe initially drew me to him is he's relatable, right? He's like a guy. He's like one of my buddies that I drink a beer with and bust some
For
balls
sure.
and watch the game with, you know. And it just seems like, you know, and I've never talked to him, never met him, but it just seems like there's some authenticity there that I think people can grab onto and appreciate.
Yeah, for sure. He's very authentically himself. He loves to argue. Um, we're very, no, we're not very different politically, but I think we are. And that's been a lot of fun. Those 3 a.m. conversations after 20 beers each. Um, yeah. And also Shane's really good at doing that thing where he's like, I'm a bro, but it's like Norm. Like Shane went to Spain to teach English because he liked Hemingway. Like he is there's a part of him that is he's like very smart. He's like maybe the most well educated in I remember having a conversation with him about the Trump election, and he was like listing off all these treaties that Trump was behind that like ensured the safety of like various places. And he's like, yeah, dude, he probably would have got like a Nobel Peace Prize if he wasn't Trump because of some of the things he's done have like really fortified areas that have not had any kind of semblance of normalcy. I mean, he's just like super smart. He can usually back up his stuff. He doesn't like rely on, you know, emotion or pathos to get his arguments across. Like, yeah, he's the man. I'm so happy for him.
But then he'll also be on the roof with you, taking on Doug Stanhope's roof with you, taking mushrooms and chugging beers, right?
Oh, for sure. No, that's what I'm saying. Like if he's everything. He's the everyman, but then he's been very good about like letting people think he's stupid, and I use my vocabulary when I talk to people, and he always makes fun of me because he thinks I'm using these $10 words to try and impress people. But it's like, I don't know if you can say if you can say one single word that does the job of 3 words, isn't that like just being a better communicator? Anyway, yeah, he's we took those mushrooms and man, we flew high, and then just laughed at Doug for hours and hours.
I think Doug's one of the greatest stand-ups to ever exist.
Yeah, yeah, and one of the best, like, again, a guy who created an entire commune in the middle of nowhere where he's surrounded by the people he wants to see. He does business with the people that are his friends that he can trust. Like, it's Doug, it's Kanane, it's these people who've just like done it the way that's harder because they can sleep better at night. And that's the way that I really like I've always tried to do my business as well.
When you hear somebody like Anthony Jeselnik taking shots at some of these guys, does any kind of feeling come with that?
No, I mean Jesselnick's super funny. He's a great hang. I think that I feel like Jesselnick's doing like almost a kayfabe thing where it's like I heard his Marin interview and he kept talking about the people who buy his tickets, like the people who are lucky enough to be there. And it's like I like that. That's like Dusty Rhodes, you know? Like I like that kind of stuff that like kind of blurs the edges between is he telling the truth or is this a work? It didn't elicit any emotions in me. I mean, I think it's great that people are having these conversations. This is
Yeah,
what I
and,
said
and
about
it,
comedy being so boutique. It's like Jesselnick bashing Kill Tony or whatever. It's like how many Jesselnick fans know who Kill Tony, like know about Kill Tony? How many Kill Tony fans are aware of Jesselnick? If you were to ask like most Americans if they knew who Louis C.K. was, they have no idea who that is. We love comedy, so we think everyone loves it as much, but like, no, it's still like very small compared to the other forms of popular entertainment.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I sort of live that. I mean, I use my wife as an example. She's a mom and a teacher, an amazing person. But I'll say, "Oh, I got this interview, or I'm talking to this person," and she's like, "Oh, that's cool." And I'm like, "No, listen who I'm talking to. You know, these are creative, brilliant minds." And so there's a little bit of disconnect there, I would say, from the general population. You know, the fandom in us and the following of the comedy for many years and the creative process, you know, being interesting to us, that's different. But I agree. In the general population, it's probably not a lot of things that we might know about aren't well known.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I don't know. Vanity Fair did an article about a comedian. They interviewed Anthony Jeselnik. Like that's good for comedy, you know? And then him like mentioning people he might not agree with, it's like he's still saying their name in a major news publication. It's like, I don't know. No news is bad news, right?
Well, I seen Big J talk about it, and he said, "Play the clip. I'm gonna laugh. He's gonna make me laugh. He's
He's
funny.
funny.
He's hilarious, right? He's like, you know, kind of the OG, not the OG, but definitely a ball breaker and pushing the boundaries of what can be funny and what not. So
Yeah, I don't like when a guy is like, I was brave the correct way. That was my only issue with what he said, where it's like kind of like self-congratulatory. It's like there's only one way to be a martyr for this, and then I'm doing it the right way. And it's like, Jesselyn, like you've been doing it 20 years. You're one of the smartest people in stand-up. Like that just there's like I don't know. That might have been a lack of self-awareness, but also he could have been misquoted in the article. So who knows? I always want to give the benefit of the doubt.
Brookfield, Wisconsin, basically Milwaukee Improv. Uh,
Yeah, big room. Plenty of tickets available. Let me tell you. A big old room.
December 19th through the 21st. Sam Tallent, samtalent.com. 2025 is going to be a big year. Looking for that new book release. And then I think Stanhope, didn't he do the introduction with the reissue of Running the Light?
Yeah, he wrote the new intro. It's it's just crazy to call up Doug Stanhope and be like, "Hey, will you write the intro to my book?" And he just does it. Like his love of my book was life changing, and now it's just so fun. He came and stayed at my house like 6 months ago. I love him so much, and he's still so funny, so fucking funny. Yeah, he's the man. He wrote the new intro. I'm grateful.
Brookfield, Wisconsin, 12/19 through the 21st. Sam Tallent on the barn here, samtalent.com. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you for having me. Sorry it took over a year.
It's okay. Here we are, and it went well. I enjoyed the conversation.
Hell yeah, dude. Good questions. Thank you.
Thank you, man. See ya.